Right. Nicholas waiting in the house. Sorry, Nicholas, butchering your surname. Bit of Christmas spirit going on over here. Truly happy and delighted to have him coming on. And in fact, we have a couple of representative of NEM in our HVF trading community as well that suggested that Nick would be a great guest to have along. Nicholas, first of all, can I do an audio check? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, great. Good to see you. We've been a bit frivolous today in Christmas spirit. We've decided that it was a gloomy enough year in essence, so that we should actually put a bit of Christmas cheer and celebrate it, especially as it's been taken away from us so cruelly. Are you in the UK, Nick?
I'm actually in Dublin right now, but I am based in the UK. So,
did you say Dublin?
Yeah. I got out just in time. I don't know if you're up to date with what's happening in London, but yeah, the whole city's shut down. So it was a good time for me to get out.
I think you're absolutely right. It's turned into wow. They've gone full ball on that. You won't know this because unless you are on following us on the Reset Sniper. But unfortunately, when the first essences of the lockdown came, we said they're going to come multiple times. And we expected this Christmas and New Year to be closed out. I'm surprised, actually, it's the UK seems to be the main one, but I think Italy's also been affected. I'm wondering if a few more nations won't be added for the New Year celebrations. It's quite tragic in a sense, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it certainly is, right? So, like, I'm Australian. I come from a city called Brisbane.
Yeah.
In Australia right now, it's completely back to normal. You know, you can go out, you can dance, you can party. All my friends and family are going to the beach and having a good time. And you know, I'm locked down, so there's a little bit of like, you know, I kind of missed the boat going back to Oz. But yeah, I mean, you know, we'll make do.
It's a harsh Northern Hemisphere Christmas for you, Nick, but never mind. We're going to cheer you up a little bit. First of all, if I'd like you to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself. I was listening to a little bit of your material recently, in fact, today and over the weekend, in terms of how you were initially in uni and running trading. You've always obviously had an interest in trading more broadly and how that led to you being absorbed into NEM, and a little bit about the token. And also I want to talk broadly about the crypto sphere and what you make of this whole year and your insights in terms of that. So fire away.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So, I mean, how far back do you want me to start? Like maybe I'll go from sort of my crypto journey or my trading journey.
Crypto journey, specifically crypto. How did it all start? How did you get, how did crypto come onto your radar? Because you were quite early.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, as you mentioned, I started a trading club at my university.
What year were we there? What year was that?
Pardon?
What year was that?
2015.
15. Okay, cool.
15, yeah. But before that, I'd sort of dabbled in BTC, not really knowing anything about it. You know, and then again, that was through a uni contact. I mean, I think the good thing about universities is there's just like a lot of sort of smart people
being curious,
interested in the world, and you know, because they're curious, they find things. So, you know, the first time I heard about Bitcoin was from one of my friends who was in game design, and that was actually in 2011. So that was a long time ago. And, you know, I didn't really like pay too much attention to it. We were like, you know, we were just playing around with what you could actually do with Bitcoin more so than like an investing instrument. But yeah, I mean, fast forward a couple of years, 2015, I had this trading club going at my university. And we modeled it off one of the like local funds. And we had a commodities team, an indices team, and what did we have? Commodities, indices, and currencies.
Yeah.
And then we had an emerging tech team, and within that we sort of like got into cryptos and Ethereum and BTC sort of fairly early on, and then sort of, you know, 2017 came around, and you know, everyone wanted to know about like Bitcoin and crypto and what it meant. And we still had the club going. We were essentially like one of the only groups in the city of Brisbane that knew anything about it. So we had a lot of people coming, asking us questions about it. And I mean, there was a lot of business opportunities off the back of that. I started my own company doing like advisory for primary and secondary market transactions. I met the ventures guys when I was talking at a conference in Malaysia. We had a few good evenings together, and then we started working together. And then when so the ventures team more or less took over management of the blockchain. That's like they were sort of the core of NEM Group, which is taken over from the NEM Foundation. And so they asked me to come across and be the head of trading for the blockchain. And I like the guys. I mean, as far as sort of people in the space, I think there's probably some of the brightest minds in that ventures team. You've got a lot of experience from I mean, real world businesses there, and also from more crypto focused people like me. So I mean, the mesh of it for me was really interesting. And I think I made the right choice because, we're the best performing asset in the top 20 with a market cap over 1 billion. I think we're pushing like 700% year on year or something like that. So, I mean, yeah, it's been a good year with NEM. I think there's a lot more exciting things to come. We've got our symbol launch at the start of next year.
I was just about to say, it was December the 15th, wasn't it? It's
14. 14. Well, I guess 14, it depends where you are in the world. But yeah. It's at a certain block height, so we can't really say a time right now. But I think it's going to work out to be about 11 a.m. UTC, which is good. It's good being in the UK for that. So yeah, I mean, for me, NEM. If you think about blockchains that have never been sort of hacked and had downtime, there's very few. There's Bitcoin, but even sort of like Ethereum's had issues, right?
Yeah.
The NEM blockchains never had any downtime, right? And pioneered a lot of things like sort of multi-sig transactions, and Symbol's basically building on a lot of the learnings from the NEM1 blockchain, and creating this sort of literally built from the scratch up, from the bottom up. So it's a brand new blockchain, a brand new code base, and I mean, I think there's already a lot of.
Is that a soft way, just to be slightly, we're talking about NEM and the new token. Is it a soft way of correcting something that was maybe less optimal in the original chain that's now a sort of Mark II, better version? Is there still hope, or does NEM become the Ethereum Classic to Ethereum?
So, I mean, you broke up for a tiny bit there.
Yeah, sure. Let me say again.
But the question was, is basically, we're going to end up with Ethereum Classic and Ethereum situation.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, no, not really. So, Symbol is going to be sort of like our cutting edge technology, really focused on hybrid transactions, and we're talking a lot to enterprise about the main users of that blockchain. NIS1, the existing chain, still is one of the oldest blockchains with no downtime. It's cheap to use, it's fast. So it depends on what you need. What is your need for a blockchain? And if you just want to be storing data and doing sort of quick transactions, that NIS1 blockchain is actually a great option because it's not going to cost you much. This year we've seen a few projects come over from Ethereum just because they go, like, we chose the wrong chain. We can't basically operate our business with the transaction fees.
Right.
So, I mean, but I think the best way to think about it is sort of like 3G and 4G, right?
Yeah.
Initially, when 4G rolled out, not everyone jumped to 4G straight away. But now, and then 4G essentially came the backbone for development. And I think that's probably a good analogy for how to think about NIS1 and Symbol. I think there's still going to be a lot of use cases for Symbol, and we're actually going to be releasing a roadmap for sort of. There's going to be a lot of use cases for NIS1, and we're going to release a roadmap for exactly, why would you use NIS1 over Symbol? What's going to be sort of on the horizon for NIS1 over 2021?
Yeah.
And
but
so that'll
in
be
the generational that you used 3G and 4G, typically that does imply that you're being superseded by the later generation, and it's more just a transitioning period. Will there continue to be a use case for the original blockchain? In other words, does it differentiate at that level? Because now 3G is really just backup for 4G, and eventually when we have 5G, 3G will probably be completely turned off.
Yeah. So, I kind of think, so, everyone builds on Ethereum largely because of the network effects.
Yeah.
People are on Ethereum, so you build on Ethereum because you can connect into other applications, and sort of people natively just trust and respect Ethereum just because it's sort of a market leader.
Yes.
And I think the network effects on Symbol will eventually overtake NIS1. But like I said, if you just want a cheap blockchain for data storage, that NIS1 chain's there, and it's gonna be open source and anyone can use it. So, I think naturally, just by the dynamic of people wanting to sort of build where other people are building, we'll eventually see all the value go over to Symbol. But that's down the line. I mean, there's also, this is what I keep toying with in my mind is, if you think about NEM and the FCM token, that's one of the oldest and most respected tokens in the market, right? And I actually think it will continue to trade fairly well, purely because of its name and its history. So like, you think about Ethereum Classic, right? Which is sort of there's not much happening there, but it's still sort of retained its market share. And then you even think about things like Litecoin, right? It's like, what's going on with Litecoin? I mean, they've put out a few updates, but why are you really using Litecoin?
Yeah.
But it's still there. But that's largely because of one, it's one of the oldest blockchains, right?
Yeah.
And two, you have a lot of people who just hold LTC and aren't selling it, so the free float is relatively low.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you'll have probably a similar dynamic with the XCM token.
That's interesting. With regards to, so we talk a little bit about your projects at the moment, and then we'll go into crypto in a minute more generally. But you mentioned Ethereum as if Signal is going to be kind of a platform approach, an Ethereum alternative. You've referenced that, if I've understood correctly. There seems to be a lot of people that are going for being an Ethereum killer. Ada will say the same, Cardano, and I think there's many others who might even have the EOS, who knows, they've all at some degree going that approach. Ethereum was first mover advantage, most developed, huge amount of developers. Look, they might have some structural early issues that put them in a sort of a bit of a dead end maybe, generationally, that someone new can lay new foundations, but the brand, everything. How's the token Signal going to eat Ethereum's dinner? How does that happen and why?
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't say that Symbol is an Ethereum killer.
No, okay.
I think as the blockchain sort of industry has develops and matures, you'll really start to see, different chains for different sort of domains, right?
Kind of fragmentation. Sort of like specialization. Yeah, I agree with that. Personally, that's my view as well. There'll be space for more than one way to kill a cat.
Also, they'll also sort of talk to each other, right?
Yeah.
So you'll have this big, I think interoperability is will be a trend that will continue to gain traction. What Symbol is what we're really positioning it for is a hybrid chain, right? So before I get into that, think about Ethereum, right? Ethereum is sort of, if you want to build a decentralized application that is purely decentralized, you use Ethereum, right?
Yeah.
So something like DeFi is great on Ethereum because you kind of want those. You want a decentralized exchange, right? You want that. But then if you're a centralized entity, say you're Maersk and you want to make part of your supply chain more visual for your users, right? You want to show a portion of your supply chain and you want to keep some of it private, right?
Yeah.
You'd probably be wanting to use a hybrid chain, right? And Symbol is essentially being built for that. But, you know, Symbol also has great interoperability features and atomic swaps. So we can really be the middleman for, you know, traditional business and then the decentralized world.
Yeah.
We'll sit in the middle of that because we can say, we can talk to the Ethereum chain, we can talk to the centralized entities, but also we can do both, you know, Symbol can do both. And yeah, I think it, you know, it's going to be, I think we're going to start to see that in 2021, you know, as Symbol rolls out, and the development schedule for Symbol after it's released is really interesting as well. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I like to think about it, rather than, you know, we're going to be, you know, there's not going to be one blockchain.
No.
In a decade.
No, I agree.
It's just not going to be
one winner. But I also think there will, after we've had a major boom period, which I think is coming, there will be some degree of consolidation where people that really haven't defined a USP will again be filtered out, kind of like the post-ICO boom as well. So that doesn't mean everybody survives either, because there'll be some victims too. So I suppose it's quite important to demarcate a territory which you can really become a specialist in. It's kind of like medical career. You want to, you have to specialize. Maybe if you're pediatrics and you're dealing in oncology, that's your bag. Just taking a step away from NEM for now, the key question we're asking all our guests actually is, in this very interesting year, to 2020, what was your personal takeout? Given the extremeness of the events and what went down, what have you learned that said, wow, and shook you, and now you're going to take with you and apply possibly in terms of our rolling into 2021? In the crypto space specifically.
Okay. Well, look, I think sort of the one overarching theme when you're dealing with volatility, and I mean, like, you know, I've sort of been crypto native guy, you know, that's sort of where I cut my teeth. And you deal with volatility on a day-to-day basis. But when you have massive volatility like we saw in March, you need to be adaptive, right? You need to be extremely adaptive, because essentially it's more or less a reset in the markets. Everything's devalued. Okay, where's the value going to flow? And right, you don't want to be betting on where the value is going to flow in 2 years' time. You want to be betting on where the value is going to be flowing immediately, because they'll rally quite hard, right? And you know, so if you didn't have the ability to be adaptive this year, you probably got hurt, right?
Yeah.
So I think one of the biggest takeaways is be adaptive. Be as adaptive as you can be.
Are you saying that as for your developer team in terms of tech? Are you saying that as a trader, or are you saying that to crypto investors generally?
Everything. I mean, you can apply that to everything, right? You know, so think about, think about the level, the uptake of technology globally since we went into sort of this global lockdown.
Yeah.
Everyone has had to have a digital strategy. If your business didn't have a digital strategy, your business probably doesn't exist right now. Okay.
Yeah. So right.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's in terms of running, in terms of business management. You needed to figure out, okay, how do I continue to operate, right? But then if you're investing, again, you know, you want to be figuring out, okay, is my portfolio properly structured for this the way the world is at the moment, and am I capturing the best value segments that are going to, I mean, the industry is going to do as well. I mean, I saw a lot of people went into travel. They were buying up airlines on the sell-off, and I kind of like, you know, I appreciate that trade, but like, you know, this is the thing. That's a bet when you don't really know that's going to take off. Sure, it's going to take off. It's going to take off, but for how long? You know, like we like I said, we're here in London. Oh well, I'm in Ireland right now, but when I was in London, we just got out of our third or second lockdown.
Yeah,
and we're going, okay, well, that's probably it for lockdowns. We were out of lockdown for about 2 weeks, and now the whole city shut down, and they've introduced an even stricter tier. Yeah. So it's like, when is it going to open up? I'm not sure, but you know, if you're betting on airlines right now, sure, they might be cheap.
Yeah, no,
but probably opportunity cost is quite high.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're in essence, you're like us. You've got the trader, you've got a trader's role and a trader's thing, and we always say don't buy the crashed industry. Everybody always thinks recoveries are the greatest plays in industries. They always want to buy because it appears cheap on the basis of previous valuations, while in actual fact it's counter trend trading, isn't it? And you should be following the strength, which is actually Bitcoin, crypto generally, and to a degree precious metals. And I'm seeing generally pricing for most assets, I think it's going to be the big long to a large degree on most things. Even the overvalued stock market can still go higher, not because it represents value, but because everything else represents devaluation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
So,
And I mean, go on.
No, carry on. There's a slight.
No, I was going to say, I mean, like this sort of goes into what I was sort of saying about being adaptive.
Yeah.
Like there's also, there's these traditional sort of segments where we view like, commodities and tech and whatever. But, it really pays to not look at the traditional assets when there is such a shakeup as we're seeing. Like I think sort of that uranium narrative is probably going to start to gain a lot of traction, right?
Yes.
And then sort of, even within crypto, there's certain themes which will emerge which sort of have emerged and will continue to emerge over 2021 that, will probably offer some of the highest
returns,
ROIs.
Yeah.
But,
So are you putting forward, for example, DeFi to continue to be strong again for next year in the crypto space?
Yeah. So, I mean, my thinking, like my investing framework for like technology is basically comes down to sort of three factors, which is what is the capacity for the technology, i.e. like what functionalities can you get out of it? So what is its utility? And then, how much speculation is in the asset? And, how do you tell if like a technology like crypto is valued? Well, if the capital flowing into the asset is for utilities that can't actually be built with the current capacity of the technology, well, then you're probably in a bubble, right?
Yeah.
So,
where do you assess that to be? I'm assuming, like us, you think there's plenty further upside and that there's a large amount of institutional money still to build places in the crypto space and that it's going to almost be poured in still? Or do you think that we've got too stretchy in crypto valuation?
No, look, I think the BTC narrative is like this year, you've had a lot of like really big, like Wall Street veterans come into the space, right?
Yeah.
Big names. And if you're a fund and you don't have an allocation to crypto right now, if you're a fund manager, you don't have an allocation to crypto, you don't understand it, you're probably starting to sweat a little, right? Because you're seeing all these big names come into it. You probably got your investors going, hey, have you looked at BTC yet? What's going on there, right? So I can imagine that trend will continue. We'll have more people flowing in, right? And then where's it get juicy? Well, the thing is that you got this custody issue, and BTC custody sort of got solved. In sort of like 2018 with BitGo, but you've got more players coming out now custodying the alts. People understand BTC, and speaking about capacities and utilities. Well, the utility right now for BTC is an inflation hedge. I think the inflation narrative will continue over 2021, perhaps for all of Biden's term, particularly when you have like, pardon?
I would even argue accelerate further, won't it?
Yeah, but I mean, are we going to see the real inflation is a question. I don't know. But the narrative's there, which is great. And that's driving money into BTC. But how long can you sit in BTC and ignore the rest of the market, right? And now the custody solutions are there for alts. And so once people wrap their head around, okay, what is an alt? What does it do? Why do we need them? is there a value proposition there? And if they get you don't need many people to start stepping over into those market caps for it to see tremendous up moves, right? So, you know, I sort of believe that what we'll see next year is a lot more money flow into BTC, right? Just because they're kind of going to be forced to. It's going to be a herd move, right?
Yeah.
Then you're going to have some adventurous people go, okay, hey, what about these alts? And this goes back to sort of a theme we touched on before, is you'll see some alts like begin to emerge as market leaders. And I kind of said this at the start of like 2019. I was like, okay, in the next cycle, you know, think about it as the alt wars, because you're going to have the emerging protocols move. Protocol wars, not alt wars. You're going to have the emerging protocols. You're going to have the leading protocols emerge, right? So you're going to have a basket of protocols that are having real use cases people actually respect and like. You know, you've got a lot of ghost chains up in the market cap still. I think they'll disappear. But the reason why that will be is you'll have proper sophisticated capital trying to find a good bet, right?
So who the winners in that? If we're to ask the question, who are going to be the emerging protocols that come out? So if we want to choose our best alts to watch, and I always like to eventually see it shown to be the case technically where the money starts to push it up. But who do you think, Bitcoin apart, and maybe Ethereum deserves its own category as a first mover, because I kind of call the king and then the queen, but of the rest of the pack, where the emerging protocols going to come? Who else do you like apart from NEM as well? I'd be interested to hear.
Apart from who? Sorry.
Apart from XEM, NEM.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look. I mean, you know, you have to. Yeah. For me, because I understand the symbol blockchain.
Yeah.
On a deep level, and I'm sort of privy to what's going on with it already, and I know the team. You know, I'm betting on that horse, right? I think that's going to be an aggressive, fast-moving horse,
yes.
right? Ethereum will continue to exist because of the network effects.
Yes.
And I like Ethereum. I think it will be around. I got no issue with Ethereum. Yeah. Bitcoin will stay around, right? Okay, so who comes next after that? I mean, it's sort of still fairly open right now. Where is the usage? And if you look at those chains, I mean, you know, let's put EOS and Cardano in the same category.
Yes. Which do you like of those, if any?
Well, I mean, you know, where are the use cases for those assets, right? And are we really seeing it? You know, EOS has a lot of sort of gaming going on there, and how much more can you get out of that? I mean, Ethereum also has a lot of gaming. Are they doing anything else? I mean, I'm not so aware of it. I mean, I might be wrong. I kind of like Cardano better, just because I can see that there's a lot of development going on there. So I mean,
and Polkadot. If we just cover the top 10, I'll include Ripple in that. I'm not sure you'll be flattering, but nonetheless, it's worth getting an opinion. Who knows? They seem to be rubbing shoulders with IMF a lot. So you have basically Litecoin, which you've made a comment on already, unless you want to embellish further. Bitcoin Cash, Chainlink, Cardano. I'm going to leave the exchange coin, Binance coin, out of it. It just seems so counter to trend. Often it does its own thing. And Polkadot. So yeah, what do you think of Chainlink, for example, at number 7?
Okay, so I mean, look, Chainlink's good. You need an oracle in the space, and decentralized oracles make a lot of sense to me.
Yes.
So yeah, Chainlink's good. I get it. Like, you know, if you want to think about DeFi, DeFi wouldn't exist without Chainlink. Chainlink's the oracle for a lot of those applications, right?
Got you.
And I mean, if you want to have a decentralized insurance product, right? You know, and you want to take out weather insurance for your crops, you know, how do you know that you're going to have the proper data flowing in there? You know, you could have a rigged data source, and that would trigger the smart contract, right? That's not what you want. So having decentralized oracles, yes, I think that's very needed, and I think that's great. Litecoin, one of my favorite trades ever was shorting Litecoin when the hash rate dropped out. And I shorted that thing like way, way, way down. And it just sort of flattened. And I was like loving it. Because I was looking at it, I was like, what is Litecoin? What's going on with it? Like I said, it don't exist because it existed and it sort of it has a strong base of people who hold it, right? So, yeah, I mean, I kind of think Litecoin will drift naturally. Polkadot is quite good. It's still young, so let's see what happens with it. I would comment it Cardano over EOS because I just sort of, I mean, there's a lot about EOS I'm sort of never really liked, to be honest. And then, Ripple, you'd be like, you want to talk about an asset that has a lot of question marks around it. I don't want to say too much about it, but, like potentially for me, I see there being systematic risk, legal risk, and that's all I'll say in it. And who else is there?
So yeah, that was good. That's a useful comment. We've got the Bitcoin fork coins, Cash, which is still in the top 10, SV, that's now number 12.
So what I don't follow it too closely. I own some BSV, and I have for a while. But I kind of caught a little bit of Bitcoin Cash infighting this year. Like I said, I don't really look at them because I kind of think that they're trying to be Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's Bitcoin, and I just kind of see them, And if you look at the performance this year, I don't think they performed too well.
No, well, SV's fallen out the top 10 to the new coins like Chainlink and even Cardano, not so new, and Polkadot. So SV's given up ground, certainly. And Cash is kind of typically in 5 and 6 position, but is probably slipping. It used to be a strong fourth. Now, of course, Tether's fourth, Litecoin's ahead of it. But it's held up a little bit better. But it's still, I suppose, the two rebel factions that broke out, and I'm not sure they easily shake that.
There's this constant infighting within those factions, and how do you have faith? How do you have faith in that when all these people are pushing their own agendas?
Yeah,
and it's just meant to be a decentralized asset. It's like, I don't know if I'd like to sort of own something where people are infighting. So. Yeah, I mean,
Stellar. What about Stellar at 11? What about Stellar Lumens at number 11?
Stellar's good. Stellar's good. I mean, I think it's a good product, and they're actually getting proper usage. So I think Stellar's probably going to be one that sticks around.
Yeah, good. Okay, so yeah, we're liking a little bit of Stellar and Polkadot and Cardano and Link. And possibly seeing Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin slowly slipping. Did Litecoin benefit to being kind of the cheap, fast Bitcoin without being the fighting against Bitcoin? It seems to have been kept up. It's actually had strong recent performance. I can tell you that over the last 7 days, Litecoin has done 42.5%, while all the others, Bitcoin's at 22, and the rest are all sort of single digits, with the exception of Binance Coin, which, as I say, dances to its own tune. All the others are teens or single digits. Quite spectacular.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's purely technical. It just looked like it bottomed. I had a lot of I had a lot of trading alerts going. I don't trade Litecoin just because I don't really like it. So I mean, but I think it's sort of rallying because of if you look at the chart, there's a lot of technical reasons like why it bottomed. But I mean, there's that narrative sort of Litecoin's the fast Bitcoin. And then, the thing is, if you're new to crypto, right, and you download the Coinbase app, there's 3 cryptos there: ETH, BTC, and Litecoin.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, what's Litecoin? I'll just buy it because it's like whatever it is, it's cheap compared to these other coins. So maybe that means I'll have a lot more upside on it. And a lot of people who sort of come in, a lot of that retail flow doesn't necessarily understand the idea of a market cap.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think like that. I literally think that's why Litecoin's around. But as the space matures, right, I just don't see why it needs to be there.
Yeah.
You know, I think sort of, and you know, the space is still nascent, but perhaps in like 3 to 5 years' time, we'll eventually see that, hey, the people who are holding those positions high in the market cap are no longer there because they had first mover advantages. They're there because there's an actual demand for the asset for its usage.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very good. So in terms of cryptos, we've covered the top 10. What have you, in terms of how it changes, how you go into year 21, what are you going to do? This adaptability that we've now learned, what does it mean? What are the guys watching? So I'm looking at the questions and monitoring the comments as well as the guys. They're asking for opinions on VET and a couple of their favorite coins. But they're also, I think they'll be thinking, what do I change in my behavior going into the new year from this lesson that we've learned? You've got to be adaptable. You've got to recognize the hotspots. DeFi is likely to remain one. Okay, they keep an eye there. I still don't really understand DeFi sufficiently. Where do we start? What should we be doing? How do you get into, which tokens do you choose? It's kind of like learning crypto all over again in the subsector. How do you stake, et cetera, et cetera. What is the manual for the guys to go, okay, let's say DeFi is going to be strong. What do I do? What do I do? I'm new.
Yeah.
Which are the best?
Okay. Well, I mean, sort of when you ask me like, what am I taking over to 21? Me personally, I'm trying to step away as much as I can from the decision-making process, and trying to look towards automation a lot more. So that, I still like the idea of trading at my own discretion rather than leaving a bot to make the decisions. But there's a lot of decisions that a bot can make for me and say, okay, this is what it looks like, and then from there I can make my own decision. Purely because, when you're dealing with volatile markets, and I kind of have the sense that what we're going into is going to be quite an aggressive bull cycle. It's hard to be on top of everything just because there's so much moving. And then it's also hard to continually make rational decisions, finding the best ROI trades when everything's popping off. And it's easy to sort of lose yourself as well when you're hitting like say doubling your investment in like a week. It's really easy to sort of be like, okay, yeah, no, I'm a genius. I'm a trading genius. And that's a trap I think a lot of people will fall into in 21. So staying grounded and being level is probably one of the best things you can do when you're making money, rather than get excited about the fact that you're making money.
Yeah.
And I will like continually ring that bell, because I've fallen into that trap, and I've seen a lot of people fall into that trap of thinking you're too good, when in fact it's just a bull market, and you probably got lucky. There's probably a bit of analytics there, but a lot of it's luck. Yeah. So for me, it's like keeping grounded and automating the process. But I said be adaptive. Okay, so think about DeFi. It's actually, you can, if you sort of break it down, you go, okay, well, there's two main decentralized exchanges, Uni and Sushi. Yeah. And so maybe you want to own infrastructure, right? If you want to own infrastructure in DeFi, there's some good assets to own. And if you look at Uni right now, it's been in this range, Uni dollar. And I think, once we clear the upside of that range, people are going to be talking about Uni a lot more. Sushi's been trading really well, but okay, why do they trade well? Okay, you need to start looking at the mining pools, all right? And liquidity mining, I'm sure a lot of people have heard about it, but what actually is it? And how do you best maximize your capital within that ecosystem in liquidity mining? Even just operating in DeFi isn't straightforward. And I think a lot of people will FOMO in to DeFi without understanding it. And a lot of those people will get burnt. and a portion of them will get lucky and they'll do like a 10x, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, you know, you've got a window here. You know, things will slow down over this next 2 weeks. Read about it, learn what it is, learn how to sort of profit from it, and then think about how do you add that to your portfolio, right? So, for instance, this is like probably a good example. I own NEM. I have a large allocation to NEM, and I want to get the supernode reward for it, right? So we've recently worked with a group called Stakehound, where you can essentially wrap up your NEM like wrapped BTC.
Yep.
And then you get sort of an ERC20 token of NEM, and that pool, all of the NEM that gets wrapped goes to running a supernode, and then your tokens earn the supernode reward, right? So you're earning the supernode reward, which is like, what is it, like 5-6%, just for holding the token, right? But then you can add your NEM to the liquidity pool for the STZM, which is the stakes M.
Yeah.
And then you can earn like 35% on that. So
this is the area that's really interesting. I like this. This is the area that's really, really interesting, because there's a lot of guys that in terms of our philosophy and what we want, is we also talk about an investment part. But I'm sitting with coins that are non-leveraged, that are not on an exchange, and are just sitting earning nothing. And I mean, you could run an Ethereum node even, which is a very prominent coin. I think it's 35 or 36 ETH. And then I'm not sure what the yield is you get, but you get a various amount of yield. I think this is going to be the growth place. I think that's the message of DeFi. If you're long-term in it and you're not going to have all of these staked for leverage trading, which most people will get wrong and blow up and lose their coins, why not have your investment earning you that yield? So the discussion around establishing nodes, where do you get the best returns? And are those returns all paid in the token, or are they paid, how they distributed? Which offers the most attractive yields for node running or for farming of some sort?
Yeah, so I mean, this is sort of where you got to do your own research, and you can actually go onto uni and you can sort of see the best sort of liquidity pools, and you know, you kind of, but there's sort of a game to play there. You know, you can sort of add liquidity to sort of something that you think might be a token that will climb up, and then you sort of, you know, in essence, it's a way of leveraging your exposure to it. Yeah. You know, say there's like a new DeFi token which you really like because you've done the research and you sort of know what would be a good DeFi token. You could go and buy that and then add your holdings of that to the liquidity pool for the asset and then earn a yield on it. And then, you know, if you want to get extra leverage on it, you could go to something like Aave, and then like get a collateralized loan on it, and then you can sort of get a bigger exposure to it. So yeah, I think, you know, if you're sitting here and you're like, okay, well, I mean, DeFi sounds interesting, I would like to learn more about it. You know, some names that I would rattle off are Aave, which has actually been one of the best performing tokens this year, AAVE, which used to be Lend. Then check out Uni. Uni is the token for Uniswap.
Yep.
Check out Sushi, right? Sushi Swap.
Yeah, Sushi.
And check out Stakehound, which is sort of new, and that's where the stake ZEM is sort of run through, because it's essentially liquid staking, right? And this is a theme that'll probably gain a bit of traction, you know, particularly because people, you know, you can now run an ETH node, 32 ETH.
Yeah.
You probably want that to be liquid rather than ETH just sitting there earning this. If you could maximize your yield on it just from owning it, would you not? So yeah, check those out, and then, you know, you can start learning about these sort of emerging DeFi tokens. And, you know, I'm looking at this going like, there's a lot of similarities between the ICO boom and DeFi.
Yes.
You know, DeFi had an initial rally, but the fact is there's going to be tokens coming out there which will just rally aggressively because they've been hyped.
Yeah.
And, if you have a deep understanding of this of what's good and not, you know, you could probably get exposures to those.
So which, if you were to give the quality DeFi tokens that are probably going to see the line, who's the Ethereum of the DeFi world? Who would you put?
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, that's what I was getting at before. I think sort of
Are they?
Aave, Sushi, they're good. They're good places to start. Compound's actually really good as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've sort of been they've been the four main ones that I've sort of been allocating to this year. I'm just thinking if there's anything else that's potentially exciting. But yeah, nothing comes to mind.
Nicholas, that's great. We were on quite a tight schedule, so I'm going to have to slowly wind down and say goodbye. That's been absolutely awesome. I think I like the notion. The guys have been told to have pen and paper, by the way, so they will have taken note of that. Those names have come up before in our trading community quite a lot, and we've done a lot of technical analysis on them. It's just nice to see you, in a sense, reaffirming that you like them. They're early movers, and there's solid projects behind them. So I think we'll definitely be watching those. I want to wish NEM and your new token, particularly Signal, great success. And do stay in touch. Follow us on Twitter. I'd like to get updates if there's any big developments coming in terms of that. And I remember my parting story, I suppose, about NEM is I went to... I think EOS had funded Consensus 2017, and it was in New York. And I went there, and I remember going back to back from the NEM table to the XRP table. And I got the impression that there were real smart technical guys at NEM. And when I went to the Ripple stand, it was all fancy stands and beautiful girls. You know, and I started a conversation, with one, and she clearly had no interest or no concept of it, and she just like pointed it to me to some laddo who was being overwhelmed. He was the one guy that would like talk about the tech at the stand, and I remember saying, I got the feeling it was a little bit like one's kind of doing the marketing sizzle and the others are just like devs. I don't ever felt that there was ever any hype about your token. Maybe to your detriment, NEM, and you maybe have to shout a little bit more. But I did get the feeling that there was real sincere people that wanted to make a change and do some great work. So I want to wish you all the success, you and the rest of the team in there. And maybe shout a little louder about your successes so that the world hears it. Unfortunately, PR and hype does play a role in making sure you're...
Look, you're not the first person to make that comment. And look, you know, it's worth pointing out that NEM Group, who is now in charge of sort of the management of the chain and the development, and I'm a part of NEM Group. We sort of took the keys to the chain at the start of the around sort of March to May was the transition period. Prior to that was the NEM Foundation. We're a completely different management team. There's sort of some people have come in from the foundation to the NEM Group. But it's sort of, you know, brand new team, and it's an extremely strong team. It's worth probably, you know, if you want teams are one of like the main sort of value drivers, you know, behind crypto projects. If they have a strong team, you should check it out. I mean, it's generally a good sign. So I would recommend, you know, if you never knew about NEM, now's probably a good time to learn about it. And in fact, we are sort of making a lot more noise than we used to. We've got a very strong marketing team. You know, our marketing head has been behind like big projects. Like I think he even came up with the whole, you know, Orange, the telco. I think Orange was actually his sort of marketing baby. So
okay, so you're scaling up your message.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting it out. So I mean, and like, you know, if you want to get more updates from NEM, we follow the NEM Twitter. You can follow me. I'll generally post things that are bullish and sort of, you know, market structure. My Twitter is at @the_n_source.
Yeah.
SOURT. And then follow Dave. Dave's our chief investment officer, but he was also sort of...
Can I ask, Nick, you give us a list of those separate to this, and I'll actually post them in the show notes so that the guys can actually do that. because it's not going to stick for me, and I want to follow them too, so that we can stay with it. So we'll put a couple of the key NEM project follows in our future show notes for that. We do need to skip on. Thank you so much for coming on and just giving us the outlook and giving us your take on crypto. It seems you're very bullish in summary of DeFi. We're going to go have to do some research and get involved in there. And I wish you all the best for 2021. And a merry festive, assuming you have an Irish Christmas, hoping to get back to the UK at some point. Nicolas Pelecanos, thanks very much for coming on.
No worries. Thank you, Francis. Thank you for having me. And Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And to everyone who's watching, thank you for tuning in and listening to me talk for 40 minutes or whatever it was. It was quite enjoyable. So Merry Christmas to all of you as well.
Thanks, bud. Bye-bye.